Well, morena everyone. To start the meeting off, could I ask Shane if we start the meeting off with a karakia?
Ana tēnā tātou katoa, kei a kuranga tira, kua rau I ka mai runga I tēnei papa kōrero tēnā koutou, kei ngā kai kaunihera, e ngā kai mahi o te kaunihera o Waipa, tēnā hoki rā koutou tātou katoa. Ka rere anō rāna, mihi kia koe Jim Keremeta, tō tātou kai mātua, mihi ana kia koe rā. Ahonora hei tīmata whi ngā tātou mahi. E papa e rangi, e papa e rangi. Tēnei tō pia, tēnei tō ari ki tau ira kai tū whakaotinuku, kai tū whakaotira. Tau ana mai te mana te ihi te tapu, ki runga ki ngā iwi kua rau I ka mai nei runga I tēnei papa kōrero I tēnei ata. Tau ana mai te mana te ihi te tapu, ko ngā mātā pono, e manua nui tāna, te aroha, te kotahitanga, te mahitahi. Ke haraki nei I nei tū āhuatanga, tēnei hui o mātau, o tira te roa ngātu o tēnei rā, tēnei wiki, tēnei marama. Tēnā, takahi a rā nea, hou, tūturu ofiti whakamauga kia tīna.
Tīna.
Haumi e, hui e,
Tāiki e.
Tata.
Kia ora, Shane, and welcome everybody to this meeting. And as much as I hate doing it by Zoom, Galen, I think you're wise to still be suggesting that we Zoom in. At least the bugs can't go down the power lines, can they? So look, as soon as we can get back together, I think the better off we'll all be. But this is the best we can do at the moment. So we'll stick with Zoom and keep everyone as healthy as we can. So the first off, obviously, apologies, excuse me, and we have one from Susan, and Marcus possibly might have to leave early, but have we any other apologies?
Yes, Your Worship, we have apologies from Councillor Andrew Brown and Councillor Graham Webber.
Thank you. Andrew, of course, is in Canada. So if they're the only apologies, can I have a mover and seconder to receive those? Thanks, Bill. Moved, and a seconder. I'm looking for, and Liz. All those in favour, wave your arms around. Aye. Against, carried. Thank you for that. So item 2 on the agenda is any conflicts of interest, disclosures of members' interests. Have we any this morning? Just looking around the screen, I don't see anything. All right, thank you for that. Item 3, is there any late items that anyone wishes to bring up? No. All right, so if there's no late items, item 4 is the confirmation of the order of the meeting. And I just briefly touched on that. It's only a fairly short meeting, so I don't think we need to change it around too much to get any decisions before Marcus potentially has to leave. So if everybody's comfortable, we'll keep the meeting order as it is on the agenda. So can I have a mover and seconder for that, please? Moved, Hopai, thank you for that. And Marcus, second. All those in favour? Contrary? Carried. Thank you for that. We're now on to item 5, the committee meeting on the 6th of April. And can mover and seconder to receive those minutes? Can I have mover and seconder? Liz and Marcus to receive those minutes. And just quickly, was there any matters arising? If I just go through those, the 6 pages of them. So if there's any issues that come up, I'll just quickly scroll through the pages. Your
Worship, just arising from the chairperson's verbal report, there was concern raised around pre-consent applications and the volume of work being generated for Ngāwi Tōpū.
Yeah.
So just Galen and I just kind of working through that at the moment. Clearly there's a need to do something in that space. We are pushing, I think more and more, we're pushing applicants to talk to mana whenua first. So, and you know, I think we accept there's no reason why mana whenua should be out of pocket for doing that. So we're just looking at how, a couple of things, how we can notify applicants ahead of time that they may need to, that, you know, that they'll potentially need to pay for those services, but also working with Ngāwi Tōpū around, I guess, provision of greater administrative resource to allow them to process those requests in a timely way. So that's a piece of ongoing work that Galen and I have been having a discussion about.
Yeah, okay. So, Galen, obviously, it's probably easier for council to notify the applicants so that it's not a surprise for them when they get a bill, and they obviously need to be picking up the costs they do for all of the council services. So is that system going to work okay, do you think?
Yeah, to an extent it'll work, Jim, but really that's only a little tip of the iceberg of the problems that we deal with. Because we're talking about people that are retired, that are out doing, and so we have to make work lighter for them when they do any site visits or when they do any work. And so I was talking to Gary about, we just need to have some kind of admin, proper admin, not one who answers emails, you know, a couple of days later, because you become on the back burner of my emails, mainly because the workload just gets too hard and there's no compensation for it. So you become the end of the list, which is not ideal for us to do to council. So we just need to do a lot of things a lot better than we have been.
Yes. So would that admin assistance free up the kaumata to do the site visits? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, because if you do all the paperwork and they know what they're going to, then that's half the work done.
Yeah.
Then they're only having to look at what they need to look at and not have to do all of the administration with it.
Yeah. Okay. So Gary, have we got any idea at the moment in terms of what the budget's likely to be? Have you got any idea that are you working on a budget to come to council, I mean, so that we can get funding?
Well, I think that's the first thing we need to do, just sort of work out what this looks like in terms of a budget. We do have some budget put aside for this, so I'm not sure whether it'll fall within that or not, but that's sort of our next step, is to identify, well, what does this beefed up Ngāwi Tōpū resource look like? Okay.
All right. So, okay, you and Galen are going to carry on working on that and come back to us, eh?
Yeah, and it fits in well with some work that Miriata has done for Ngāwi Tōpū as well. So if we can sort of tie all those loose ends up, I think that would take us a long way.
Okay, thanks, Gary.
Even the form, Jim, even the form that we do is misrepresented. You know, either you have a concern or you don't have a concern. But the don't have concern maybe just because the delegate doesn't have time to do it, which is not fair to the applicant, or neither is it fair to the council, because you could potentially end up with a pass site, and it's because somebody can't do it.
Yeah,
haven't got the time.
And I think that's where we need to bring Tony and Quentin into the discussion. Tony Quickfall and Quentin into the discussion about that whole front end of the process as well.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for that update. So going back to the minutes, page 3. Okay, 4. 5 and 6.
So on page 6, just to the Mayor, on page 6, it's got, and I don't know whether Bill wants to raise it or not, but it has Ngāti Apakura, but it actually needs to have the whole name. It's Ngāti Apakura Te Runanga o Ngāti Apakura. And it's on page 6 and it's the 3rd paragraph. Yeah, so I don't know whether Bill wants to raise it or not, or it's left like that, but I just thought I'll raise it as a note because that's not what it is in the minutes, in the attendance. That's not how the representation is.
Yep. Okay. Bill, did you have a comment?
Yeah, just Te Apakura Runanga Trust is who I represent.
Okay, so it's just a matter of getting it technically correct, Bill. So there's no problem in changing the minutes to reflect that. So if that's obviously a correction that needs to be made. So with that correction, is everyone happy that there's a true and correct record of the meeting? And we'll make sure we've got it right in the future. So I'll call for a mover and seconder that they're true and correct record. And I had Harold wave at me, so he's moving. Second, have we got a seconder? Liz, all those in favour? Aye. Contrary? Carried. Thank you for that. We're on to item 6. Galen, your verbal report, and anybody else that's on Iwi Tupu or Waipa, if there's any comments that anyone wishes to make to support Galen, are more than welcome.
If I can just push it out to everybody else, that would be really good, and then I'll go last.
Okay.
Because I might not need you then.
Yeah, just the mop up, eh? Thanks, Galen. Is there anyone wishing to go first? Dominic. Thanks for that.
Tēnā koe e te koromatua, koutou katoa. I'm just following on from the discussion earlier about the resource consent. As we're doing an internal review, we're looking at ways we can try and speed things up, be more efficient. And as Galen and Gary were talking about, they're looking at one part of it, but I was wondering if there's any, I'm looking at the way we transfer the data, or transfer the forms, the resource consents between each other. And I understand we do it via email, we can do it via mail. And I was wondering if Council has any plans in the pipeline to move that into an online space, maybe a portal where forms are submitted that way. And the reason why I'm asking is I don't want to reinvent the wheel and look at how we set up some internal systems of how we monitor and track them. If there's something in the pipeline for that Council is going to do that, where all people would submit and be able to make comments to a form. Does anybody have any comment on that?
Thanks, Dominic. Gary, from an IT perspective, it's out of my league, but you can comment, and Marcus might have some comments about how we can make it more efficient as well.
Yeah, look, I probably out of my league as well, Dominic, but I think if that probably is a good solution to look at. We don't have anything in the pipeline at the moment, but very open to having those suggestions made, and very conscious that there have been lots of glitches with the systems that we have been using. I think at one point we were using a Dropbox, and that didn't tend to work that well. So it'd be great to work with you and get some suggestions, and we can take to our IT department and look at how we might be able to improve that system. Certainly looking at a bunch of improvements in our systems at the moment, so that might be good timing to throw that into the mix.
Yeah, well, I know we've got the technology to do it. Yeah, just need to check with IT.
Yeah, thanks, Marcus. So Dominic, were you looking to try and alter things your end at the moment? And if so, we probably need to get onto our IT department to work with you directly. Is that a solution?
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, I was looking at something internal if there was nothing in the pipeline. So I'm conscious things like this, when it's done from an organisation, like it takes a lot longer than anyone ever thinks. So I can still go ahead to try and streamline how we do it. But yes, if I'm able to have conversations with what we're doing, so that I don't over-engineer or I don't start making a solution that's not going to work for everybody. Could I be focusing it on us, on Iwi Tōpū first and foremost, to streamline that? And if I can work in with your team, absolutely, I'm happy for that. But in the meantime, I'll carry on focusing on getting our team a little bit more efficient on how we do it. I was just wanted to check if there was anything in the pipeline. So thank you.
Thanks, Dominic. Kirsty, I see you've got your hand up.
Through you, Your Worship, I understand that there have been some conversations as between Quentin Budd, the team leader in the planning area, and Ngā Iwi Tōpū about processing, about revisiting criteria for what comes through to Ngā Iwi Tōpū or Waipa. And so my recommendation would be that Quentin is probably the appropriate key liaison person, and he can bring in IT to work collectively with you, because it is a planning process. So I think it definitely needs to be there in that mix. So if he can be the key point of contact, we will connect with him and provide background to this discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, Kirsty. Is there any other comment on that issue? Thanks, Dominic. So anyone else from Ngā Iwi Tōpū or Waipa that wishes to make any comments so that Galen can finish her breakfast? No other comments, Galen. It looks like it's back down to you. Sorry, Gary.
No, I was just going to say, I thought Galen did have a couple of things she wanted to raise. But
yeah.
I did. So one of them was around the Te Kawa Maunga, and so Ngā Iwi Tōpū was asking about the status of that maunga. Well, actually, we're requesting from the council the status of all of the maunga, because Te Kawa has a different status to the others. So we really want to know why that is, and can we make the status the same on all of them?
Yeah. Gary, have you got any comments on that?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of research work that we'll need to do there, Galen, and it will go back to the last district plan. I'm not entirely sure why Te Kawa has the alert status, whereas the others have the full cultural landscape overlay applied. So that gives a different standard of processing. So that's the first thing. We can research back on the reasoning around that. The second thing, I guess, to take it to the level of other maunga, of protection of other maunga, would require a district plan change. Yeah, and we can research that as well. I'm not quite sure how easy that would be, but again, we can report back to Ngā Iwi Tōpū around that.
Okay, and look, I might not be 100% correct, but part of the maunga is actually in Otahonga district. Is that correct?
Yes, the other side of Te Kawa.
Yeah, the southern slopes is probably in Otahonga district.
I thought it was within Waipa, but I might be wrong. Just looking at the map.
Oh, look, yeah.
I'm looking at the map now. It looks like it's all within Waipa.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Okay, so look, Galen, that looks like something that we've got to do some research on and get back to you on. So what status were you looking at in particular? Did you have anything in mind?
Well, the current status of that maunga is that somebody can build a house on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's a real no for Ngāi Tōpu. Everybody in Ngāi Tōpu disagreed with it.
Yeah. So there's no reserve on the maunga at the present time, is there? It's all farmland.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wonder, Jim, if that's not a leftover status from its previous occupation by the New Zealand Post Office and the microwave site that is on top of it. I recall when I was working with the Post Office way back in the 60s, that it had that special status on the site where the microwave stations were. And that might be a place to look when you're looking, doing the research on it, on those old protection mechanisms that the New Zealand Post Office had for its telecommunications network and reticulation systems.
Yes, through you, Your Worship. Yeah, certainly there was a designation up there that was uplifted at 2019. So it would have been in place at the last district plan. So that possibly is a reason. Generally, you know, we've had to kind of get cooperation of landowners, so to put those high levels of protection in place. So that could be a place to look. But yeah, that designation is gone now.
Okay, Galen. Hey, listen, it looks like we've got to do a fair bit of research on it and get a plan for moving forward, if in fact we can, with it being all in private ownership. If that's the case at the moment, it's not as if there's a scenic or a historic reserve on the maunga. So yeah, it looks like it. If necessary, it might even mean that some land purchases need to be contemplated, like we have done on Kakipuku, to try and extend the reserve that's up there now.
The other thing, Jim, can we have a look at the building application that's going on up there? I've forgotten his name.
Yeah,
come through me. Oh, sorry, Your Worship. Perhaps if Galen just puts a request into me, I can arrange that.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
that'll be really good. Thank you. So my last discussion is around. We had a presentation on the cemetery.
Yeah.
So one, what determines a WDC cemetery? And the other one is, what are the expectations of WDC for mana whenua, from mana whenua? There are 10 cemeteries.
Okay.
Anna can answer that.
Well, Your Worship, fortunately, we have Anna in the room.
You're on mute, Anna, I think. Yeah.
How about now? Better now?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, thank you.
Rookie mistake. Kia ora koutou.
I didn't think we'd get through a meeting without one of us being on mute, so you get the chocolate.
There you go, I've done it.
You get the chocolate fish. Yeah.
Excellent. So what determines the cemeteries that are in this project for preparing concept plans for the council cemeteries is the ownership. So the scope's been determined to be the cemeteries that are owned and administered by the council. So that's, as you said, there's 10 public cemeteries across the district. And what we're keen to do at this early stage is understand from mana whenua how you would like us to engage with you on this project. We know that obviously while there's urupa, the cemeteries are important to mana whenua Matawaka, in terms of places where whānau are buried, but also potentially in terms of important sites of significance. So we're really keen to ensure that we are engaging the way you would like us to engage on that project. We've got a plan that looks in June to go out to the public with an online survey to get initial thoughts. We'll then enter into, and we're doing some engagement with the RSA, Grey Power, other groups, and then we will look into drafting those plans and then taking those to community board, back to Ngāi Tōpū towards the end of the year, and then up to service delivery early next year for endorsement to then go out for another round of engagement on their draft plans themselves. So, you know, I think there's real potential at the moment when we look at our network. There's been an attempt to ensure there's things like water provision for tikanga, important tikanga, but in terms of any other sort of cultural infrastructure, there's nothing. So there's a lot of opportunity through design, through signage, through perhaps mahi toi, through planting, to make these spaces more welcoming in terms of for iwi and hapu. But I think also just the basic visitor, you know, some of the other things we've identified is there's a lack of shade and seating and other things that are really important to ensure that they are places where people can go and spend time comfortably.
Thanks, Anna. And I'm aware of one, but we might have more than one church cemeteries as well that are operated privately, if you want to call it that, from a church perspective. So they might be another group that we need to be contacting. But Galen, was there a specific issue you wanted to bring up here, or are you happy to work through the process?
We'll work through the process because it's really about, so does Ngāi Tōpū need to do this, or do we not need to do it?
Yeah.
Hey, do we need to know about the cemeteries, or don't we?
I think, Your Worship, that's what I guess one of the questions Anna's asking is how do we have those conversations? Does she work with individual hapu or come to Ngāi Tōpū, or is that right, Anna? What you're looking for?
That's absolutely correct. That's the direction we were just wanting to get, is what is the best way that we can do that engagement. And I think I talked to the fact that for the Memorial Park and Te Koitu concept plans, we invited iwi and hapu to some workshops throughout and sort of worked on co-developing those plans. So that's one option. Harold talked about the fact that it'd be great if we could come out for those that wanted for us to come out to the marae and speak directly to iwi and hapu. And so I guess it's just how do we get that direction to ensure that we are doing the engagement the way that you would like us to do that.
Yeah.
All of that.
Yeah. So a start point, no, Galen, would be Ngāi Tōpū
Yes.
Waipā, would it?
Yes, it would be.
As the first point of contact.
Yeah, but when you come, so what we want to know, so what is it that you want from mana whenua in the cemetery? Is it about tikanga? Is it about kawa? Is it about water? And what is your overall concept of the cemetery itself? So I heard that there was going to be a playground in the cemetery. My grandfather would turn in his grave if things like that occurred at the cemetery. But yeah, so, you know, so what is it that you want to, that way it becomes quite specific to what mana whenua can answer to you.
Thank you, Galen. So we will bring that back and bring back some specific topics to talk to and get thoughts on to Ngāi Tōpū. But should we also proceed then with setting up an initial workshop and just inviting everyone and those that have a desire to attend that can then attend? Is that the best
definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. It's the first I've heard about a playground at a cemetery, Galen, but I don't know everything going on. But I would imagine it wouldn't be particularly popular. Harold.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Look, just a question. I noticed that you've got the Tukanui Cemetery as on that list somewhere. I seem to recall seeing it. And is that, first question, is that actually one of Waipa District Council's responsibilities. Because I recall when we had to address that, everyone denied any ownership, any responsibility for it, and it defaulted to the Conservation Board under the auspices of the Conservation Board. But I think its location and the local community sort of kept it within the Waipa discussion anyway. It never ever got to the Conservation Board to be discussed at all. It was just one of those default things. So that's the first thing, where does that fit in this list? Because we have a strong interest in that urupa and how it's managed, because it was on land that was taken from our people under the Public Works Act and never returned. And the other one is, we're talking about playgrounds, is Maunga's Reserve, which is an urupa. It is the cemetery. It has a playground on it that belongs to Waipa District Council also. So we have to have a wider context of thinking when we think about, do we have playgrounds on urupa or other things on urupa? That's a discussion, I think, that should be part of that discussion we have with Waipa when we have that discussion with Ngāwi Tōpū Waipa as well. Let's put that on there just to jog our memories about, here's something we can actually discuss that affects us immediately and in our backyard as well. Thanks, Jim.
Through you,
Thanks,
Your Worship,
Daryl.
if I just quickly respond, Tokanui is not part of the scope for the concept plans. I think that was just in the notes talking about the wider provision across the district. And in terms of play provision, that was in one of the slides, because there's a few things that have come up through some initial early engagement that we were just keen to test what would be the feeling around catering for children when families are there for longer periods of time. Wouldn't be a standard playground. So it was just early days testing out concepts like that. Similarly, the planting for placentas as a way of potentially providing for that and improving the biodiversity of some of those spaces that are not suitable for burials. But it was really just to test what was the feeling about the appropriateness of those activities. So there was definitely no firm plans for anything at this stage.
So I think that the first discussion is, what is a cemetery and what is an urupa?
And what is a reserve?
Yeah, and what is a reserve?
Yeah. And what if they're all three of those wrapped into one? Yeah, look, I completely missed the Maniapoto Reserve in Kihiki when you reminded me, Harold, that there's a playground there, that's for sure. And yeah, so yeah, it's not simple, but look, let's work together on this and get a good outcome that's for everyone, eh? Thanks, Anna, for
that's me.
That.
I'm done. Thank you.
Thanks, Gayleen.
All good.
So can I, you're happy to move your verbal report, Gayleen?
Yep, definitely.
Yep. Can I have a seconder for that? I'm looking around, and Hopai has seconded. All those in favour? Contrary? Carried. Thank you for that. District plan work program update. Who's handling that for us, Gary? It's Kirsty. It's
Big Joe and Tony.
Oh, okay, Tony, is it you handling it, or is Joe?
Joe's there.
I think we've got Joe online. I think Joe was going to pick this up.
You're on mute. She's on mute.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. Hopefully I'm not.
Okay, Joe, can you just run us through this item, please?
Kia ora koutou. So the district plan update is pretty busy. We, at the moment, are working on plan change 26, which is a compulsory government plan change. We are proposing to put plan change 21 on hold and notify early next year to bring our notification date in line with Hamilton City. We are working on plan change 17, which is the Hautapu industrial zones. draft plan change 23 Papakainga. So we have lit a contract out to an external consultant to do the scoping for the plan change and to keep that moving. We've had a private plan change 20 for the airport northern precinct extension come in, and that's currently on hold while we seek further information. At the same time, we've got the Carter's Flat plan change underway, which is plan change 19, and we have a number of private plan changes currently in discussion. Nothing lodged yet, but it's looking like we will get some private plan changes in between July and September this year. For plan change 26, which is the compulsory government plan change, and it's the one that requires us to allow for intensification in all residential zones within the urban boundaries of Cambridge, Te Awamutu and Kihikihi. We are currently in the process of writing the plan change, and we'll be looking to go out for limited iwi consultation at the end of this month. My apologies up front, it's not how I like to do consultation, but the time frame the government has given us is that we must notify on the 20th of August. We had a JMA hui last week, and it was proposed that consultation can keep occurring after notification. So I would be looking for the policy team to keep working with iwi to address any issues that have come up out of the plan change. We will be having qualifying matters, so we are looking to exempt some residential areas from these medium density residential standards. We will be using the updated flood mapping as one of the qualifying areas. We are looking at heritage character areas. Any qualifying matters that we do has to be done on a site-by-site basis. So we are unable to do a blanket exemption. We have to justify it site by site. We are receiving infrastructure review reports at the end of June, and we are looking to use those to support the outcome from Te Tua Whaimana. So ultimately, the betterment and the protection of the Waikato River and the river catchment will be the number one priority of the plan change. And that is in line with Waikato District Council and Hamilton City Council. So the three councils are working together to use a vision and strategy as basically the top aim, the umbrella under which the plan changes sit, and having front of mind at the start from the plan changes that it's the betterment and protection of the river. We can't enable anything that causes further degradation of the river. So that is plan change 26. So big plan change, not really supported by any of the councils who have to do it from the meetings I've been having, but we are just going to get it done.
Thanks, Joe. Was there any questions of Joe in terms of those plan changes?
Does the E-Plan work stream inclusive of you, Joe?
E-Plan is with us, so it's actually quite an exciting space at the moment. We've seemed to have resolved the GIS issues, so we're having trouble transferring our maps across into the E-Plan, but that looks like it's been resolved. And we are hoping, fingers crossed, to go live in January 2023. And that's going to be awesome.
Joe, what does it look like from a mana whenua perspective around significant sites?
Initially, it will just transfer over what we've got in the district plan. It's not adding anything, so it's simply transferring our current district plan over, and as we do plan changes, it will allow the district plan to be updated easier. It also means that there won't be paper copies of the district plan floating around. So we'll have one source of the truth.
Just for the me, do you think I can just ask Vanessa, and it's around the Papakainga spatial plan and the data that you were doing on the GIS, and how does that work into the e-plan work stream, or does it?
It doesn't. Kia ora, everyone. Sorry for arriving a bit late. It doesn't at the moment. If you remember, Kayleen, we had actually all signed an agreement as to what the data will be used for. So until this is something that we can test with the guardian of those data, we had mentioned that we wouldn't be releasing it to other members within council. If this is something that the Kaitiaki want to actually do, we could pass it on. Joe is aware of the special wananga that we had done on the 3rd of December, when not all, but Mana Whenua's aspirations were mapped onto the GIS viewer. But we had locked this in within that project, as it was agreed with Mana Whenua at the time, but didn't want the data to be passed around without their consent. So that's something that we kept as committed. So if this is something that you think Gayleen and Mana Whenua as a whole want to see being released for Joe's work, that's something we could do. And we talked about it with Joe before as well. Yeah.
There just needs to be a conversation, Vanessa, because it's really about the data is really about how best it can achieve their outcomes for our people, really for everybody. It's not as if the data is hidden. You can go to the Motorland Court and find it. But yes, but there is a conversation that needs to be had around that space. What happens with it? Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to know because that e-plan work stream was up there. Thanks.
Gayleen, if I am giving permission to be able to use that data would be used for the Papakainga plan change, and would inform some of the mapping and the objectives and policies as to areas where Mana Whenua want to see Papakainga enabled. So that's how it would be used. And after that plan change went through its whole process and stuff.
Yeah, that's it, Joe. But that's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah,
and then that gets transferred into the e-plan. So the e-plan is the end result of something. So nothing gets put into the e-plan unless it's been through a plan change process, which would come to this committee, NETAL. We would do extensive Mana Whenua engagement.
All right.
Yeah. So I'm not sure of the process there, but if somewhere can be recorded that we need to have a discussion and that there is agreement that those data can be released following the data use agreement that we had with Mana Whenua, that's perfect for me. That's what we had the special wananga for those information to be actually implemented somewhere. So yeah, that would be good if we.
It's just to make sure that everybody understands what we're doing with it. So everybody has to understand that, and then there's an agreement. There has to be an agreement that's made. But that's right. What Joe was saying is exactly what I was hoping would be an outcome.
Thanks, Gayleen. I see, excuse me, Bill, and then Kirsty has a comment on that issue. Bill.
I think Kirsty was first, Jim. But
oh, sorry, I was deferring to the elected members.
Oh, sorry. Okay, then catch it by. I just wonder if both reports need to identify this as a risk factor, and as we progress those reports. So in Joe's, the spatial plan one needs to be identified as a risk factor, and in Vanessa's, Joe's report needs to be identified as a risk factor.
Thanks, Bill. Kirsty.
Through you, Your Worship, just to pick up on the discussion between Gayleen, Joe and Vanessa. Vanessa, absolutely correct in terms of that undertaking that has been made with mana whenua and iwi, and we've had a number of hui where we've talked about foundation of trust, relationship, sharing of information, the use of that information. I note that we do have another round of hui scheduled, Vanessa, where we'll be engaging with mana whenua and iwi to talk through the evaluation of scenarios, and we will be, as part of that conversation and process, be talking through aspirations and priorities, so perhaps we can bring it into that forum and revisit it there. Thank you. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Kirsty. Okay, so Gayleen, you're happy with that? Yep. Okay. Was there any other comments on the work program? Looks like Joe's got a handful at the moment, and certainly the compulsory change is not going to sit well with a lot of councils around the country, I would imagine, but something we've just got to do. Okay, can I have a mover and seconder to receive the update? Yeah, Bill, and seconded Dominic. All those in favour? Aye. Contrary? Carried. Thank you for that. Kirsty, item 8, is Vanessa handling this for us? Huaki?
Through you, Your Worship, yes, Vanessa has authored this report and will be leading the presentation of it. Vanessa, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. So as you can see from your agenda, from page 20 to 26, I think, I had, oh no, page 20 to 30, my apologies, a main report to provide an update on the progress of Hauake. Hauake being actually the name gifted by mana whenua for this plan. So I had provided a bit of context with the thought process that Shintikroki has had through the conclusion to actually give his name. I think I've only had a few minutes here, so I will take the report as read with the appendix, and just asking if there are actually any questions that I could potentially answer today.
Thanks, Vanessa. Were there any queries anyone had or comments of Vanessa?
Sorry, Jim, I just wanted to ask one, and I just forgot about it the other day, Vanessa. So are you able to tell me when the due diligence will be done on the Mataranga framework? Is there due diligence being done on it?
So that's gone through a process that we have actually stepped in with the project control group. So the Mataranga Maori framework has been reviewed twice now through our project control group that you're part of, Gayleen, over the April and May project control group sessions. We've provided an explanation on how this Mataranga Maori framework actually came alive, and that was on the back of the Cambridge Wastewater Plant project initiating those type of framework to have a evaluation option. So I think the due diligence has been done first by Stephen reviewing all the environmental management plan and GMAs, and this has been provided to the project control group back in May, on the 16th of May, and we reviewed it last night as well to finalize this. So I think the due diligence has been done in a collaborative process between the project team and our project control group, and yesterday's recommendation from this group was to go ahead and use it as a framework to evaluate the scenarios.
Thanks, Vanessa. Yeah, Kirsty, you wanting to add something?
Yes, Your Worship, through you. Just to add also that we have engaged with Ngā Iwi Tōpū Waipa twice in respect of the evaluation framework, including this component part. So just to check in with you, I think, Gayleen, as to whether there were any issues, concerns, matters that you were wanting us to be aware of at this point.
No, I only raised it because actually it was raised by Poto, and it was raised in a comment that she put in, but at no time did anybody actually reply to it, and that's why I asked it.
Thank you.
And I did ask Stephen of it, but his reply is actually different to yours. So I find that quite interesting.
In what way can I ask?
No, I asked him the same question too, but his answer is just a little bit different to what you gave.
Okay, through you, Your Worship, we're happy to follow up with Stephen or yourself, Gayleen, directly if there's a discrepancy in terms of the response, because Stephen's a key part of our project team, so we should be saying the same thing.
Yes, and I understand, but my issue is probably, does everybody else in Ngāi Tōpū understand what I asked? And what does it mean? Because you put a Mataranga Maori framework up there in front of a mana whenua, so that was just a framework. But nobody said anything about how that framework works, or where did it come from, or we understand where it came from, but what does it mean? Hey, so I know, and I'm sure that others that are in Ngāi Tōpū would have looked at it and thought, well, what does that mean in a Mataranga framework? All you did was put in a whole lot of plans, and, you know, in all due respect, they were all iwi plans. And you're talking to mana whenua about an iwi plan. We're not responsible for the iwi plan, and I don't know how many times I say it. We're not responsible for them. They have a legislation to run by, and that's how they do their stuff in that framework. For us, we want to know, what does it work? What does a framework look like for mana whenua? A Mataranga Maori framework look like? And because councils don't have one, because you work at a higher level. It's a higher level that you're doing. So it's all iwi stuff. So where does the mana whenua fit in that iwi space, in that Mataranga framework? That's what I'm asking. So my question, and Stephen knew that's what I was getting at. So where does a Mataranga Maori fit into that framework? It doesn't.
I think if I'm going to try to respond to this, but the Mataranga Maori framework has actually gone through quite a bit of assessment from Ngāi Tōpū, from our PCG members. We try to develop it with PCG members and mana whenua PCG members only on the 16th of May. We went through actually this in detail to explain how that would be actually used as an evaluation tool. What we mention is that, like every other framework, those are directing questions. They are not the important part in the evaluation. The important part in the evaluation is the correro, the discussion that comes actually with it. And this is really where the implementability of those aspirations will actually be assessed, be almost dismantled and put together again. This is where the plan is really being put together. The Mataranga Maori framework, like the LTP framework, like the quantitative assessment framework, are only tools and mechanisms to direct those discussions, to make sure that there is a process in place, a structured process in place for those discussions to happen, and for each item, topic, key area, aspirations to be reviewed. So they're only a framework. What is really important is not what happens, what the structure is the content of those discussions. That's really where those framework will come alive. As they are words on a piece of paper. We are providing direction to a real Corero that we need to have on the 30th of June. That's how I see it. Those frameworks are only guiding tools. They're not they're making sure and ensuring there is a true partnership going there, that we do not miss any key factors or key areas who are important to every person within the community. For me, they are guiding tools. They're not what makes the plan. The discussion around it, the conflict, the disagreement, the agreement, that's what's going to make the plan.
Thanks, Vanessa.
Can I just ask Hopo if she give a comment on this?
Hopo, you're on mute.
Apologies. I just got caught up in my wires. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, fine.
No, you can't see me.
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been listening intently. Can you hear me? Good. I've been listening intently to the discussion, because there is a difference between Mataranga Maori per se. That's the sort of overall, but when you get down to mana whenua, there are multiple differences. And that's why we have a collection of representatives from different areas of Waipa as mana whenua, because what I might do in my area is different from what could be done in Parawera, for example. And that's dictated to us by our own kawa or processes. So we need to have the discussion, because there are differences. Most of us as an iwi in Waipa recognise the differences, but I guess that it's important that when it comes down to the basics and to the smaller grouping, that the council has this information, so that we can be sure that council is really on board from our own disciplines and where we're coming from. So I hear the discussion, and I understand there's going to be one further, so I'm really looking forward to that. Thank you. Yeah.
Clarify. So, Galen, if we just get our terminology, I suppose I was going to say correct, but at least if we're all talking about the same thing at the same time is what you're asking for, isn't it? So that Tiffany's interpretation is the same as mana whenua.
Yes, that's right, Jim.
Okay. All right. So, Kirsty, you can follow that up.
Yes, I mean, through you, Your Worship, I think what we've committed to at the commencement of this project is, ongoing dialogue. We really want to partner with mana whenua and iwi, but we have mana whenua representatives on the PCG. We have Stephen guiding us. We have taken on board feedback from mana whenua and coming out of the hui in relation to the development of the scenarios, in relation to actually expanding the evaluation framework. But as Vanessa said, really the critical key here is relationship discussion. So we'll take that feedback, we'll follow up with Stephen, and we'll link back in with Galen.
Yeah, thanks for that. One of the greatest measures I have about information is that if people are not feeding back into it, there's something wrong with it. It's just not computing. But thank you for that.
Yeah. Thanks, Galen. Were there any other comments on Vanessa's report? If not, can we have a mover and seconder to receive the update? And we've got Bill and Liz. All those in favour?
Aye.
Contrary? Carried. Thank you for that. Item 9.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Thanks, Vanessa.
Thank you. Take care all. Bye.
Yeah. Possible use of marae for civil defence centres. Gary, who's handling this?
Kathy Shaw is going to pick up on this one. Thanks, Your Worship.
She's not here.
Yep, she's there. She's just on mute.
Kathy.
Hi. Hi, everybody.
Yep, over to you, Kathy.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Some of you will remember back in late 2019, I addressed the group around the possible use of marae as civil defence centres or community-led centres within our communities. And then COVID sort of got in the way, and many marae closed and we weren't able to meet or anything. So I'm just wanting to pick up this work stream again now that COVID seems to be relaxing our colours, and we're in orange and hopefully going to green soon, that we'll be able to pick up on this work stream and get some documentation and have some conversations around using maraes if we need to in an emergency as a CDC or a community-led centre. So my reason for coming back to you is just so that we can keep you informed, and also to ensure that we get from you the right contacts for the maraes and the strategies that we will use to connect with them, and have the conversations with them around collecting the details. I'm aware that some marae have not yet reopened after COVID, and some are wanting to remain closed. I'm not quite sure, but that's where your information would be vital for me to gather the necessary information for me to contact the right people and make sure we get the right information in the right places.
Just sorry, just to add to that too, to Kathy's commentary, Your Worship, I think, Kathy, your brief extends beyond the Waipa as well, doesn't it? So you're looking at marae outside of the district as well as...
That's right. My area goes right through the Western Waikato area, so around the Waipa, right through Otahonga and as far down as Milkau. So yeah, so it's not going to be a short process, and it's and not all marae will want to engage, and that's completely up to them. But I just want to be sure I don't offend anybody or anything by assuming that all do or don't. So.
Thanks, Kathy. It's a good opportunity to touch base, isn't it? And where there's if you want to call it a normal civil defence emergency like a flood, and it's a physical happening event where everybody works together, and there's no concern about disease spread with COVID. It's a different scenario, and it's interesting now, isn't it, that with COVID going on for as long as it has, probably for a couple of years almost now, it's easy to envisage that we could have the remnants of a pandemic in the community as it is now, and still get a flood. So where a marae might be quite comfortable with supporting a flood event on its own, it may not be suitable if there's still the pandemic in force at the same time. So it's going to be a challenging time, I think, for marae to actually have that sort of discussion to know whether they're available for all civil defence emergencies or just some.
That's right, and it's up to, as I said, it's up to each individual marae, and none of us can assume what they have had discussions about about their own processes, and each marae, as Help said before, each individual marae has different sets of processes around what they want to do, and it would just be remiss of me to just think I can ring them up and just assume that they want to talk to me. So,
okay, thanks, Kathy. So, just some guidance for Kathy. The best course of events for Kathy is to actually approach each individual marae. Is that a fair assumption, Galen, Bill, Harold?
So how far out our way do you go, Kathy? Out towards Parawera, how far out do you just go to our marae?
No, we go all the way out to, we take it the whole district boundaries, and for some of our area we'll go next to South Waikato. So where our district boundaries are, that's where we go to, and then South Waikato on that side would come in next. So I think we've got you and Pohara in our area.
Yeah, we used to be part of that. Oh, Chuck could give more. We was part of that, the civil defence. Yeah,
and that's the thing. Over the years, it was always just assumed that the marae would stand up in a civil defence. As Chuck knows, it was the national guidance. But as things have changed, as Mayor Jim said, with the pandemic and other things, it's just another opportunity to re-engage and make sure that we have got the right protocols and the right contacts. I mean, the emergencies don't happen, between 9 and 5. So we need to make sure we're ringing the right person at 2 a.m. To help out and things like that. So, yeah.
Yep, I'll send you our contact for our marae.
Thank you.
No worries.
Okay.
I think the approach to the marae is probably best.
Yeah.
Because then you've got the marae committee chairs, and you can talk directly to them.
That's great. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy.
Shane, are you agreeing, Shane?
Yeah, definitely agree. I think that would be my advice. Approach the marae directly and have those conversations.
Yeah, thanks, Shane.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, thanks, Kathy. Just to receive that brief report, can I have a mover and seconder, please? Galen and Dominic, all those in favour? Aye. Contrary? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Kathy. And item 10, commemorations. Again, badly affected by COVID. But Shane, did you want to talk to this item?
Hi, kia ora tātou. So yeah, there's been a number of commemoration disruptions across the district. We've recently, just on the weekend, had a very small and private mana whenua commemoration of the Mātakitaki and Hui Pūtea sites, a commemoration of the 200th anniversary of the invasion from the north, which changed the identity map across the district and brought into being or put in place the hapu that we have now in regards to our modern context. Those went very well. I'm yet to hear back from Mātakitaki how well that went, and I think it's less than a dozen people at each site. And that's peculiar Hui Pūtea because of the outbreaks of COVID in the Otorohanga district. Still quite a bit of that going on there. So the numbers were very small, intimate, and recordings were captured by, I believe, by Waikato Tainui at Mātakitaki and the Manipoto FM crew at Hui Pūtea. Waiting to see where the links are so that we can share them around. but those were done on behalf of iwi, which is as a protective measure for both sides, for both mana whenua and for our manuhiri who would have come, of course, from far north. Tira. Noting too also that this year has been accounted by the Kingitanga as Te Tau o Tawhia, that this is the year of King Tawhia, in as much as he was born 200 years ago, not long after the attack on Mātakitaki. Born in the southern areas, at a little place called Orongokoekoea. For some of you may be familiar with the Madonna Falls, out past Te Kuithi on your way to Taumarunui, in the area adjacent or around about there. We'd have to go there so I could point it out to you, but it's his 200th year, the king who did not enjoy the easiest of reigns. In fact, he had the most turbulent time. Tira. Any questions on this?
Thanks, Shane. No, there's no, well, from me, there's no question, but it's just an issue that we've got to work through at the moment, isn't it, with COVID that's still out there, and although we are, I suppose, reducing the restrictions, there's still a lot of people out there getting ill, and we've got to try and keep people safe as best we can. So as frustrating as these postponements and cancellations are, I think people's health has got to be paramount. But Bill.
Most definitely. And you see here too that we've got the 28th of October commemorations, which in themselves have been stalled last year and proceeding with caution this year.
Yeah,
that's the key factor here. And I know Bill and quite a few others are involved in that space and proceeding like it's going to happen. And hopefully we'll be in green by then. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Shane. Power of positive thought, eh? Bill.
Kia ora, Shane. Yes, I was going to raise the issue of the 28th of October at Orakau. We've signalled as part of those, last time round as part of those commemorations, following that on the 4th of November at Rangiaowhia. So I'm in talks with Waikato Tainui at the present about that, the 4th of November being a possible date for Rangiaowhia, and us holding that commemoration there. We're looking to tie that in with the possibility of, this very strong possibility that that's when the Anglican Church will gift 61 Rangiaowhia Road back to Ngāti Apakura and Hinatu. That's where that's at. I did have a question about the Runga is proposing to hold a sort of mini music festival for Wahine Mā, Tamariki Mā, for Matariki on the 25th of June. Now, we were approved funding for the February commemoration, which didn't take place. And I did wonder, and I have emailed Gary this morning about this, whether we still had access to that funding if it hadn't been used, Jim, and whether we could use it, because I'm not aware of too many other events being organised for Matariki and Te Amuru.
Yeah, Bill, Gary forwarded on your email, and I haven't even opened it yet, but he did tell me what was in it. So we'll just need to follow that through in terms of the funding. I couldn't tell you just off the top of my head, so we'll look at that. Whereabouts was the intention to hold that concert?
We're just in the process of confirming a venue, but it's possible that it will be 61 Rangiaowhia Road.
Yeah, so I suppose, and again, this is just off the top of my head without having had the opportunity to talk to any of the planners or anything from an engineering perspective, whether there was a planning issue that we needed to make sure was covered off in terms of the numbers of people likely to be there, what are we going to do with parking and all of those sorts of things, and whether we've got enough time between now and the 24th. That's only 3 weeks, isn't it, to get anything organised. So the funding might be probably the lesser of the issues to resolve. But look, I'll get the staff here working on what issues we've got and what's the best way forward. And potentially it might be that another site where there's not going to be potential parking issues, and I don't know the size of your gathering or anything, what the expectation is at the moment. So look, we'll follow that up and get back to you really shortly, because it's time's working against you, I would suggest, at the moment.
Yeah, and my apologies for not listing it as another matter of business, but
no, that's all right.
Yeah, you know, we are in talks as well with the racecourse, obviously, and other venues. So yeah.
Do you have any, just off the top of your head, any idea of the scale of it, Bill? You know, how many sort of? I know it's hard to guess, and particularly with COVID in terms of numbers, but have you got any sort of gut feel, I suppose?
300 to 350.
Yeah.
Sorry, Your Worship, we've lost our quorum. Councillor Gower has left the meeting.
Thank you for that. I did see that come up in the chat. It's only receiving information at the moment, and we can't make a decision on Bill's comments. So yeah, as long as everybody's aware at the moment, anything that's talked about is just general chat, which is probably appropriate as we've come to the end of the meeting probably, and there might be some other issues that people want to bring up. So Bill, I'll get the staff working on that request now. But just as a feel, with that sort of number of people, you're I don't know what sort of access you've got onto that property now for making provision for parking and those sorts of things. So maybe thoughts along the race course might be more appropriate, but yeah, leave it with us for a couple of days and we'll get back to you, All right. Okay, as Claire has told us, we have lost the quorum, but if we can just receive Shane's report, we might have to formalise that at the next meeting. Kirsty, I see.
I was, through you, Your Worship, I was just going to stop you there and caution that very point that you won't be able to formally receive and approve the report, but that would need to be done at a later meeting. We'll represent it at the next meeting.
Yeah, so thanks for that, Kirsty. I don't think there's any problem with that. There's no actions. It's just for our information as much as anything else. So we haven't lost anything, but we will just need to formalise it at the next meeting. Yeah. Okay, thanks. Were there any other issues, general issues that anyone, I know it's, I haven't covered it off in late items, but if there was anything anyone wanted to bring up, maybe for reporting next time. But
I've only got one, Jim,
Yeah,
and that's the attendance of Maunga Tautari at the ICC.
Yep.
The non-attendance of the rep. Maybe there we need to touch base with them to see who the rep is.
Yeah.
So it is Joe Tehiri Tate. I have mentioned it to Karaitiana that she hasn't been able to make it for the last few, so I'll follow up with him again and just see what we can do to appoint someone else if she's not available.
You could put the Raikawa and the Waikato Tainui rep in the same basket.
Well, no one's been
Or
appointed
is there
for
not
those.
going to be?
There's no one. Discussion I'm going to have with Waikato Tainui to see if we can get someone, but we've only got one meeting left this triennium anyway. But yeah, we do, and I'll just make sure that Rolka are aware that they can appoint someone as well.
Yep, that'd be good. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Galen.
And can I just note, Your Worship, just Hopai and Harold, we're just trying to contact you. We've got a few local issues we want to talk to you about. So so when you see my number come up on your phone,
right.
Yeah.
I'll block it.
Yeah.
No, any time, Gary, just get hold of Kathy if you wish and sort out a time if you need to meet.
Oh, I think they probably don't need you, Jim. Just some smaller local issues, skateboard parks in Maunga's Reserve, just a few issues relating to those that we wanted to catch up with Hopai and Harold on.
Okay.
But we.
Yep. All right. Well, if there's no further items, thank you very much for your attendance. I'm sorry that we can't break for lunch now and share food together, but I'll hand over to Shane to close the meeting.
Tēnā tātu katoa, kei te koro matua o tira kei ngā koinihera, me ngā kaimahi o te koinihera tēnā koutou. Kei aku ranga tira, nā kanohi o ia marae o ia marae tēnā koutou. Koe nā rā, he whakakapi atu rei tō tātou hui poto nei, tēnei karakia, hai arataki i a tātou i roti a tātou mahi katoa. Kia hora te marino kia whakapapapauna mo te moana kia tere te kārohirohi. Ko tō tātou hoa haere harake nei ko te rangi Māori. Tūturu ofiti whakamaua kia tīna, aumi e hui e
tāki e.